They might be self-aware.
Gary here. Gary here, you're technically still breathing voice talent, calling from this premium telecommunications facility that probably costs more per minute than I make per intro, which is concerning, but today on They Might Be Self-Aware, fake news votes that may or may not exist are somehow more believable than my career prospects. Hackers are using AI to break into banks faster than I can break into voice acting, and some Australian bank fired 45 humans and immediately hired them back, which gave me like 3 seconds of hope before I remembered I'm competing with computers that probably sound better than me and definitely don't need quarters to make phone calls, and oh god, is that my replacement right there in their show title? Well, at least when reality stops being real, nobody will notice I was never that convincing anyway.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service.
AI, madness, and the unraveling of reality. It must be, they might be self-aware. I know that actually I don't know. I might be self-aware. My name's Hunter Powers, joined by...
the unraveled Daniel Bishop. I'm entirely 100% raveled today. Raveled.
How's it going, Daniel?
It's going well, Hunter, because I may be entirely raveled, but the world is unraveling around us. And so at least one of us has to be good, and it's me.
I think you mentioned there was a story recently where I guess there was like a Venezuelan drug boat that was headed towards the U.S., which they decided to blow up because apparently that's the only way to stop it, right?
It's with a major like cross-national, international, incident. Yeah. We'll just blow up a boat.
Blow the thing up. I thought a long time, is there any other way to stop a boat? I couldn't come up with any other ideas. I don't know if you could imagine any other scenario than just blowing it up, but that's not what we're here to talk about.
Incident. And then it turns out, at least according to Venezuela, that didn't actually happen. That's just AI.
We may never know. This is like that, was it Malaysian flight something, which just disappeared in the clouds one day?
Well, no, I guess so. But that one we know started from being a real flight.
Okay. That one was real. This one may or may not have been real.
Hold on. I knocked a thing over and I got... So that started from a place of definitely being real. This one might not have ever actually been real, but like, why would you state what equates to like a large, an international incident, a like extrajudicial, whatever, exploding of a boat full of people? Generally not something that you would be thrilled about seeing in the news, but unless it is not a real piece of news, fake news. I know we've been talking a lot about like deepfakes and a lot about AI replacing jobs and so on. And yes, AI misinformation too, but this feels like a next step toward we can't trust anything anymore, right? Like anything.
I think society
of a drug boat being blown up off the coast of Venezuela may or may not have happened.
And also, it may have happened, and then they went to Midjourney and described it and had it animated, and that's the video that went out.
Right.
I think as a society,
version of the court sketches, sort of.
I think as a society, we are lagging way behind on realizing the degree to which nothing is real anymore, or or the degree to which everything can be fake.
AI can be posting comments and so on. Hey, make sure to like and subscribe to our podcast where you know that you're real and our comments are...
This is a challenge. Cool. Prove that you are real and not some bot watching this. And there's one easy way. Hit the subscribe button.
With the, was it Voight-Kampff test?
Yeah.
The real Voight-Kampff test is the friends that we made along the way and liking and subscribing and leaving comments on the episode on whatever sort of form or format that you're listening to. But beyond that, yes, full on dead internet theory. Dead now. Like, I was weirdly okay with like, whatever, all the news articles and all the posts and stuff on the internet. Okay, this is increasingly becoming just fake and like, let's just, social media is dead now. Oops. We accidentally killed it by completely turning it into a sea of nonsense. I was weirdly okay with that. I don't think
I feel like
I'm
it's still
okay
flourishing.
with the news. Well, no, I mean, it's still flourishing. People are still on Instagram, but everything that I've seen is there's more and more AI slop. Do love that term, just infecting everything. But I'm not okay with it being like internationally relevant news. Stuff that if it could directly lead to a war, and I don't mean like Helen of Troy was so beautiful, sort of like, oh, here's some really hot Instagram influencer who's fake. I mean like international incident blew up a boat off the coast of some country. I'd sure like to know that that was a real thing, or to it not have showed up because people didn't fake it. Personally.
You don't like vibe news? Vibe newsing? Is that a thing? Vibe newsing?
The vibes are rancid. If it's vibe news, that's what I'll say. But we've talked about vibe coding as well. Plenty on here.
Hunter with his VR headset on the beach.
I'm getting a little bit more into that myself, where it's like, so I've talked about Klein, this like plugin for my code editor, where you can give it
a plugin for your life.
Yeah, and it'll go and it'll look at various files and, ooh, okay, I learned about this and I'll add in these new files. Is this good? And you can like tell it, I'll just auto approve it, whatever. And then there's Claude Code, which is a little more hands off than that, where I'm just like, here's what I'm going for. I'll let you know when I'm done. And like, you can ask it to stop more often, but you don't see kind of the side by sides of the code as it's coming in. It's just like, yeah, I updated it and I'll run some tests now. And it's like one step farther away from you being involved in making it. And I like to think of myself as a good guy, and I'm making code for the betterment of society as a whole, probably. But you can also vibe code your way in the dark side of things, on the dark web, or on the, I don't know if there's another term that would involve the word dark, but the point is, people are hacking, like capital H hacking, as well as also like social engineering and so on, with AI now, with Claude, with OpenAI, with local tools. You don't have to know programming to make a virus, which is kind of wild. You could always buy one on the dark web, but now you could just make one.
Well, first, I think hacking has a really strong negative connotation around it. But
hold on. Where are you going with this, Hunter?
No, hold on a second. There's ethical hacking, Daniel Bishop. You can be an ethical hacker.
Pen testing.
Yeah, so I think what the average person out there might not know, and by the way, if you're interested in this, as a youngster, I may or may not have been heavily interested in this topic.
Were you a script kiddie?
If you want, that's a put down, by the way, in the hacker community.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. I don't know these terms.
If you are interested in hacking, and by the way, real hacking, but in legally, there are many companies that put out challenges and invite you to actively try to penetrate their networks in exchange for disclosing when you break through, and they reward you for this. It is a
bug bounty programs out there. All of the big players, they will pay you serious money if you're like, hey, I broke into your system and here's how. They'll fix it and give you a wad of cash.
By the way, and lots of startups too. So I've worked at many startups where there are things like Hacker Rank is one of them, where you just go and you say, hey, here's my company. If you can hack me, here's my email me, and I pay you for every bug that you find. Not to mention big companies. So there are lots of places that you can legally hack into. And not only that, they pay you very large sums of money. And there are these leaderboards of the people that are successfully hacking into these companies. And again, all above the board. But something interesting has been happening on these leaderboards recently, which is large language models equipped with tools have been climbing the ranks.
Makes sense. These things are good at programming sort of in general. And if they're good at programming in general to be given a task of here is a website and the known API endpoints, and here's where the login page is, and here's what code you're able to kind of see, get into it. They'll do their best to get into it. And a lot of these models are pretty good at getting into it.
Doesn't this kind of directly contradict the critical flaw of vibe coding? We've talked about many vibe coding stories where someone builds a new app, gets released, and then inevitably everything is exposed and they delete all their databases and they give everyone's driver's license to everyone or something like that. How do these two stories balance?
I think this is easily balanced in that you can have lazy people who don't even realize they're being lazy. They just got to a point where I have a working website. Oh, shoot, I can click on the thing and like the stuff that I expected would happen. But they don't have the like years of experience to say, I know that I'm supposed to be hardening against these kinds of attacks or X, Y, or Z, and don't even know to ask the AI, hey, could you be hardening my software against common threat vectors? Claude Code has a like slash command of just like, hey, security concerns, do I have, and it'll just check through your code, the whole darn thing, I think. At least the like main exposed.
So you can vibe hack your own app. You could vibe code it and then vibe hack it.
Like, so on that leaderboard where you're mentioning that like some of these tools are getting very good at these penetration tests or other like hacking type attempts, why not then also include that white hat hacker version into OpenAI or into Claude or into Mistral or whoever, to the point where you can say, I'm going to make a site. And also, before anything goes live, I need you to make sure, boy, is this really secure? It doesn't even have to be a large language model. There's a bunch of not machine learning based checks you can do. For example, there's, I think it's called Prowler, is a Python, among other things, package that you can download where you can say, of all of these different like certifications out there, SOC 2 being one of a great many, one of them, where you can like, hey, here's the infrastructure to my thing. I pointed you to it. Here's like your login, whatever. Check my stuff. Is something not locked down right? Give me my laundry list of 947 issues that are all critical. Wow, that's a big list of things that I need to fix. This is out of date. This has a vulnerability that was never patched. XYZ, whatever it ends up being. Like, these kinds of tools already exist. It's just we are moving from the OpenAI, ChatGPT, I'm in a window and it just spits out like a block of code and I'm copy pasting. That's where we started. That's our ChatGPT, 3.5 a couple of years ago. And now we are at a point where these are reasonably integrated into our systems. And you can say, I need to make this kind of system. Well, architect, plan, code. Starting to get into make the unit test, do linting where you make sure everything's like following the right style guidelines. The next step is to integrate in a bunch of these other existing tools and make sure that this isn't sloppy work. Make sure that this isn't going to get me in trouble. Make sure that I don't have my database exposed to the internet, which these tools can already do. It's just people don't know to be looking for those things. They don't know to ask about that. And so the betterment of these tools is integrate them as sort of first-class features. Make that the default.
So vibe hacking is real.
It is real, and we should all embrace it in a white hat way for our own stuff.
I've noticed that some companies that have been embracing these AI innovations have started to maybe walk back some of that embracing. And I suspect it's because a lot of these AI transitions, they kind of started from like boards of directors saying, what's your AI policy? How are you turning everything into AI? Which really just meant, how are you cutting costs? How are you cutting costs to make a more efficient profit machine? Which I love. I love an efficient profit machine. I'm not here to...
I can talk to a chatbot.
I'm not profit shaming.
Why are we still paying people to chat with our customers? Yeah.
But there's a reckoning.
Two classes of this. Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You take the lead.
There are two classes of walkbacks that I've seen. One is on the programmer side, where these things are so productivity enhancing. Let's get rid of a bunch of our programmers. Let's just vibe code the whole thing. Oops, we have a bunch of bad code, tech debt. we need real programmers to come in and fix this. And then the other is we got rid of a bunch of humans, mostly in like customer service type roles for a chatbot that surely can do the same thing. I can't really do the same thing. And the article that we're alluding to here talks about a bank that got rid of, it was 45 people who were like in customer service type roles that surely we can just replace this with a chatbot, right?
Australia's largest bank.
Mm-hmm.
The Commonwealth Bank of Australia, for those who were wondering. I wonder what is Australia's largest bank. Apparently that's it.
Ask your local AI, what are the top 5 largest banks in Australia? Go ahead and let us know in the comments what it thinks it is. We'll let you know if you're right.
Throw another bank on the Barbie. That's what I have to say.
But yeah, so these people were fired for being redundant, and this is all just in the effort of cost savings, it turns out. And by trying to replace them with chatbots, these chatbots were not capable enough. They weren't completing people's tasks well enough. That call volume started to increase rather than decrease.
Yeah. There was, in the article, there's also an element of, I felt there's like an element of like union sort of tactics here where they were trying to, they created a big public story about them being fired and being replaced by AI. So there's a bit of a public outroar about, how did you take these people's jobs and look at this data?
Well, no. It was because they were redundant, as in there is not a need for that many people. And then as calls increased, the union was able to say, not redundant. This was not redundant. This was just
I wonder if the union hadn't said anything, would these people be brought back? It feels a little bit more like they're just walking it back because of the public. The unions, but it created a big story. Just hire the 45 people back for now. I'll figure this out. Like, I'm guessing it was working a little bit. It wasn't quite the disaster that they're making it out to be. And I probably wouldn't have hired back. That's what I'm saying. Unions, send your letters to, I forget what our email is. There's an email address somewhere.
Union complaints that they might be self-aware.pizza.
Yeah.
And now Hunter has to buy it.
There is no .pizza. There's no .pizza TLD. We looked into it.
No, I could have sworn that there was one at least a while ago. Maybe nobody was using it and it went away. What's the closest to .pizza as a top-level domain, do you think? Like conceptually closest.
There's an XYZ.
That's not... XYZ and pizza are wildly different from each other.
They both have a Z in it, Daniel.
They both... And you know what? You can take that to the bank and talk to those 45 people.
It's one of the worst top-level domains, and you're basically guaranteed to never get listed on Google.
Yeah, you're saying this is a miscellaneous domain.
And you probably get one of those like warnings in Chrome when you go to the site that this may be a phishing attempt.
Right.
Just because of the top-level domain. Well, I mean, they are really cheap. And you know, one other thing that's getting cheaper and cheaper is running AI inferencing. What that means, you may not know what that term means, but that is the actual prediction of text or creation of an image or running of the AI model and the interpolation of its weights or just the model to produce an outcome. That's inferencing. And that, I guess that along with the training is the bulk of the cost for AI and why these things cost tremendous amounts of money and why they say like today,
if you want more to train it than to run it. Just across the board.
The current belief is like, if you want to train the next generation foundational model like a GPT-6, you basically need to have an entire power plant dedicated to the training to get enough power to be powering all the GPUs required. It's insane.
It's not just solar. This is like companies are saying we're going to reopen coal plants. We're going to try and like
you need more power than a typical like city.
Plants. Yeah.
In a typical city dedicated to running these GPUs.
It's just the power, let alone the cost of then running them is, I think the smallest number that I saw from one of the Chinese labs that was making do with like not having as much access to the best chips and cards and whatever was like $50 million.
And that's the last generation.
And that's like way bottom of the barrel. A couple numbers that I'd seen were somewhere under like 300 whatever million plus dollars. We don't know for sure because these companies are not telling us how much it is. It's all guesswork. But That's a lot. And that's just after you already have the electricity.
But Google claims to have been able to reduce this substantially by about 33%. Sorry, not 33%, 33 times.
Yeah.
A big difference.
Huge difference. Huge, big difference.
And Google, go ahead. I'll keep going. Google, I'm triggering Google devices everywhere as I hear them whispering in the background.
I found these results on search.
It found some results on search. How much money did that cost? How much energy did that run?
They have made several advances in efficiency, so they run their own hardware. They're not running NVIDIA GPUs, the most standard GPU to run for this. They have their own, I believe ASICs would be the correct term. Yeah.
And server processing units.
That are far more efficient. And they continue to increase on that efficiency. And it may be one of the ways that they ultimately win the battle by having their own proprietary hardware that allows them to, if they're able to do it at 33 times less cost than everyone else, that's got to be a huge advantage. Not to mention good for the environment, maybe?
Better for the environment anyways. One of the concerns that people have, rightfully so, about not just the end of training, but the inference of these models is, well, it's boiling the oceans to do it. It's using however much water to do it, because you need water for like the water cooling of these huge data centers. And Google released for Gemini for a median prompt in the middle of like energy demand for one of these. They've calculated out to 0.24 watt hours of electricity, the equivalent of running a standard microwave for about 1 second. That's not bad, right? I mean, then you say, but it's a gajillion comments going through. It's a ton of prompts every day. Okay, sure. I mean, a lot of people are microwaving their food or driving their cars or X or Y or Z per day. I'm not trying to be an apologist about the energy usage, but I definitely felt like it was going to be a lot more, given how much my computer with its NVIDIA GPU chugs whenever you ask it a question.
Okay, so maybe we're on a path towards, well, at a minimum, making the energy usage far more efficient. We still have the problem of the data that's needed for all of these models and training it. Though I did see that Anthropic maybe made a step forward there, or at least handled one of their big, long-running headaches, the book lawsuit.
Right.
Remind us about the lawsuit before we talk about its resolution.
There are a lot of lawsuits that are currently still in progress against all of the major AI companies. This one in particular was a huge consortium, whatever, group of book publishers and authors and so on that had come together and said, hey, Anthropic, while you later did buy a bunch of books and then scan them, and that has been determined to be like a legal kind of learning from, you also illegally got a whole bunch of our stuff earlier and trained on it. And should this lawsuit have gone through, one of the potential outcomes is you're not allowed to have that data. Anthropic delete it and everything derivative off of it. I think that's like sort of a worst case scenario as opposed to here's a fine. But it could potentially represent a like existential crisis for we cannot keep anything that we've built thus far. More likely would have just been some gigantic fine. And rather than it going through the court system, there has been a settlement. And so Anthropic is paying, presumably. We don't know what, like it's secret settlement. We don't know what the terms are. Maybe it's ongoing. Maybe it's profit sharing. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's just a chunk of money right now. But whatever it is, the legal precedent does not get established that having had this data and training it for X, Y, or Z reasons like that hasn't gone through. It won't in this particular case.
Does that make you happy or sad?
Neither. Sort of ambivalent. Like we've already talked about how the cat is out of the bag in general.
Copyright is dead.
I don't think it should be, but it is. And certainly from a like, well, Chinese labs are releasing almost as good as frontier models for free. Those are not going to be terribly respectful of IP either. And so I think what we're seeing is the US-based companies are embracing the copyright is dead in the most palatable to them way, which is to say, we will make agreements wherever possible and then pay off wherever not possible anyone who is upset that none of these lawsuits establish legal precedent that we're not allowed to have done this stuff. Which is like, from sort of a perspective, I don't think is ideal, but I also don't see a way around this state of things. I just don't. Maybe there is a better way or a more clever way or something, but what I've noticed is it's paying off in settlements and trying to find some kind of legal precedent that says we are allowed to do this, because otherwise it turns out all of these companies will fall behind because the Chinese companies are releasing something that's 6 months behind the latest and greatest from the Western world and making them freely available. And I don't know, that doesn't bode terribly well for them being the Western companies.
The solution, although not a solution that I would champion in any way, would be to basically end the open internet. Right? If we effectively tariffed the internet or create a closed internet. So, okay, China, you can create your model that clearly rips off a ton of American IP. However, if you want any traffic from America, there's a huge monstrous cost to it, where effectively you are paying for that material, and the death of the open internet.
And then 2 seconds after that's enacted, there's going to be people with briefcases full of USB sticks or whatever.
Yeah, but we're not afraid of those people. This is really about the masses. There will always be a workaround and a way to get around this system. Yeah, you want to open up random tunnels and firewalls and bounce it off satellites. 100% you can still find the way through. But 99.9% of people aren't going to be doing that. And I hope it never comes to that we try to end the open internet.
Well,
I feel like
China already has what they call the Great Firewall.
This is true. China doesn't have an open internet. What are you talking about?
What you described already exists
in China,
where you can get around it.
But as an American, I don't want them to end the open internet. This idea that we have this giant world connected together by wires and that we're allowed to freely move between them.
As it relates to like this big lawsuit for Anthropic, I do think that there's this existential crisis for Western AI companies who are like the ones making the foundational models, that their heels are being nipped at and not that terribly far behind by things that are being made freely available. And it's not just like stealing of company secrets. This is other companies doing other approaches that make something that's nearly as good as the absolute current best and saying, well, we had a bunch of, spare GPUs because we're actually in the quant finance, whatever business. You guys can have this. And it just also happens to erode US AI supremacy. And while not having to worry about all those pesky lawsuits. And again, I don't think that there's a clean or even good solution to this other than us kind of having to bite the bullet and say, well, I guess copyright is dead as long as you pay some fines.
It's a misdemeanor now.
Right.
It's a seatbelt ticket.
I stole, millions and millions of dollars worth of books. Well, that'll cost you $11.50.
It feels like that is the path that we're on. That is the extrapolation of present. And I still I'm not, maybe that's a good thing. I mean, it's about freeing up the information. It's corruption of intellectual property, but maybe that corruption is necessary for us to get to the next level, that we need greater sharing of intellectual property in order to escape the current stagnation that we may or may not be in. And you might say, well, there is no stagnation. Look at all this innovation, but that innovation is coming at the cost of the corruption of intellectual property. The mass explosion of intellectual property. And we're absolutely breaking through the stagnation. We just haven't officially recognized it in legislation yet.
Yeah.
We're still...
And when it comes to like books, and let's really focus in on books for a second here.
Focuses in, Daniel.
Focus. If Anthropic or OpenAI or Meta or whoever are going to take all of these books illegally and train their models off of it, that is less optimal from like a legality perspective of buying one copy of each book and scanning it and then destroying it or whatever after. But in terms of like, Penguin House Books or whatever, selling as many copies of whatever book or books that they are going to be selling, like, I don't think that that's going to be a large number of lost sales and talking to an AI is not a replacement for reading a book, nor do I think it ever will be, even if they were to completely and verbatim.
No, I disagree.
Which is not what they're for. Like, sure, there are people who are using different voice AI models to like narrate audiobooks. An AI is not a replacement for reading a book. And so books will continue to sell, I think, regardless of what AI is up to, about as much as they are going to be selling anyways. You said you disagree with this?
I disagree that leveraging a large language model to discuss a book cannot be an effective replacement for reading the book. Most books have like 4 or 5 key takeaways hidden in 200 pages. And
all right, Cliff's Notes.
Well, I got a lot of books back there, and I've read the majority of them, but what am I looking for? So it's a lot of business books, management books, philosophy books, leadership books. You're looking for, okay, there's a couple of key insights, a couple of key takeaways that I can apply here. And then there's often a lot of fluff and material. I've written books. There are pages that you are asked to fill up, and you've got to think about things. And let me talk a little bit more about the history, and let me add some other ways that this go and other applications. And I can respect that some people enjoy that because you're enjoying being enveloped in the world that the book creates. And just tell me, I want the spoilers. And sure, like you're like, well, if I tell you the spoilers about the new movie, is that the equivalent of going to the movie? No. But I potentially do have the same takeaway.
Books. Like if I go to the Wikipedia page and read the plot synopsis of a Brandon Sanderson novel, which are always like 60-hour audiobooks or however the heck many, pages, I'm not coming away with the same experience or the same memories or the same fondness for the material that I would have otherwise had. A book is not its synopsis.
A book is not its synopsis, but for me personally, there are many times where if you can just tell me the key takeaways, I'm not going to bother reading the book.
Well, there are a lot of books that probably don't have a lot to them then.
Yes, this is 100% true. There's a ton of fluff in a lot of nonfiction, especially around instructional nonfiction.
If I were to ask, let's say, OpenAI for a synopsis of the book Goodnight Moon, and then I read that to my daughter instead of her bedtime
Fiction is
book,
different.
She's not going to enjoy it as much. Nor will she have, years from now, positive memories about Goodnight Moon. She's going to have very negative memories of her daddy, who for some friggin' reason was reading her bullet point synopses of children's books. It's literally not the same. Now, if you're looking at like, I have 3 bullet points that somehow I got a book deal out of for a management book. Okay, yeah, maybe that could have been 3 bullet points. This meeting could have been an email, but in book form. But I don't think that there's a lot of them. Someone's autobiography. You said fiction versus nonfiction. An autobiography.
Instructional nonfiction in particular.
Okay, all right. Instructional nonfiction. We're really narrowing the scope down.
Well, that's most of what I read.
The For Dummies theories you're saying should be a pamphlet instead of the book. They might as well charge you the same amount, and you might as well not buy it. You should just go to OpenAI instead.
Yeah. Or you should at least start on OpenAI and get the key takeaways, and then do I want a little more depth there? Then maybe I'll go read the book. Or did I really enjoy that and I want to learn more about that sort of whole world? Yes. But are there books where I have
medical textbooks?
Yeah, who needs them?
That's instructional nonfiction.
Who needs books?
Gonna go look. A lot of
Burn
people
the
go
books.
to OpenAI for like medical advice or quasi-medical advice. Now, I don't want my future doctors to have not read the book and instead have the Cliff's Notes of the medical whatever the hell they're supposed to be, learning from. That doesn't feel great. to me. I firmly stand by, no matter what type of book, a AI synopsis is not the same as reading and internalizing that book.
Because it's potentially better. And that's another episode of They Might Be Self-Aware. You want more? Hit like and subscribe. It's free. It's easy. Every major podcasting network. Watch us on YouTube if you want the video. Although, caution. You've been warned. If you're listening to audio now, maybe just stick with audio. You might be better off. I don't know. You can describe. You can let us know in the comments.
You might be self-aware.
You might just be self-aware.
Wait, why shouldn't they go to YouTube?
Well, then they would see the truth, Daniel. The truth may not set you free. All right, folks. Thank you. We love all of you, and especially you. Yes, you.
That's right
here
you.
on
They might be self-aware.